Hello and welcome to Q&A Live. I am Kendra Ruth from The Hero Spouse. And thank you so much. I did receive some more submissions after that last reminder email went out. So I have enough for today and at least one more for Monday. So keep sending them. There's also, if I have a little bit of time, an email I was writing had some topics that are a topic that is really relevant to a few people that I have been talking to or with others about. So I might want to try and go over that. If I don't get to it, I'll try and get to that on Monday if there's not time. But it's an important topic. It's one we go over a lot, but it always bears repeating. Okay, so we're going to try and do that as well. So first, let's get started. I'm going live in 3 places. I'm going live on YouTube. I'm going live on Facebook in a private group, and I'm going live in a public chat area. So any of those public areas, YouTube and the public Facebook page, people can see your comments. If you have gone through the private link from the private group, your comments should be safe within the private group. In other words, only people in the private group should be able to see those. So I'm going to try and click on, okay, now I should be able to see the chat on my screen. So if you are asking questions in the chat, I should be able to see it as I speak, and I can try and address any of those as they come up as well. It looks like we have 5 questions, and I have barely read through the last couple that came in. In fact, that's why I was a little bit late. I was trying to go over them really quickly. Okay, so that I'm not reviewed up on them a lot. So we're going to be on the fly here a little bit, and we will see how we can do with that. I am also going live as I always do every 8 weeks or so, part of my launch for Stand Up and Thrive for my membership, which is a membership for forward-moving spouses like you. And it is a support group where we meet 4 times a week. We meet for an hour, twice a week. It says 30 minutes because I guarantee the 30 minutes, but I stay for an hour. I try to stay for a whole hour. Sometimes I go over to the point where they warn me, okay, you're about to be cut off because the system will cut you off without warning if I go even more over. But I stay for an hour and 2 hours twice a week as well. So 4 times a week. And I try and make it in the mornings, my mornings and my afternoons, so that the global audience can make it, even though it might be really late. But we have people in Australia and people in the UK or in Europe that can make it. It's just not as right in the smack of the afternoon. Sometimes it's early morning, sometimes it's late at night. So I'm going to paste the link for if anybody is interested in Stand Up and Thrive. It is going to be open for a week, so the doors are open right now. And if you have any questions about that, you can certainly ask me about that as well. So hold on a second while I make sure everything is coming through and paste that link, and then we will get started. Okay, it looks like we're coming through. This is, let me see if I can leave a chat. See if that went there. Okay. And I have too many characters. So I'm going to find a different way to do that. Okay. Let me go to the other one. Okay. So right now I'm putting a comment in at the public page. And I have not figured out the comments on YouTube at this point yet. So there's a comment at the public page. The private one is still not coming through yet. So I'm going to go in a different way. Just really quick. Let's see if I can get it that way. Sometimes I can just see if I can find my face coming up in. No, okay. And if I can't, I will put in the chat sometime later. Okay. And you'll find it out there. But let's see. . Okay. Okay. That went through. Okay. So our first, number one, we have an anonymous female left behind and forward moving spouse with a bomb drop of November 25th, 2025. I'm going to think this is 2024 because this is clearly a typo because it's not November 2025. And so I do recall this being one of the questions I had on this one was that date. And a date of marriage of 2010. So likely that this is a very recent bomb drop, given that it was the latest November probably. Okay. And given that, that means that Vanisher is recent. So sometimes that can change with when it's this early on, but we'll see. Okay. And energy level is listed as a high energy replayer. She says, how often do you see husbands who left for the alienator come back? And how long afterwards? We'd raised a son together for 14 years. We had ups and downs, but nothing serious. We always went out as a family every weekend. I just know my husband had traumatized experience in his childhood. So that makes it sound like I know it, but he hasn't talked about it. So, and it's not so much assuming. Usually you can know, you're like, I know that family, that sort of thing. But he has not acknowledged it to you, it sounds like, which is even more so trauma in childhood in that sense, if you can tell there's something really deep there. He changed a lot, like he is a totally different person after he met his alienator. He doesn't really care about me or our son anymore. Everybody tells me that he will come back, and it makes me sad because I don't think it would happen. So a few things. First thing, it's interesting that people are telling you that. I wonder who they are. And I don't mean like that in a skeptical or non-skeptical way, but I say that because I don't hear that very much. And why are they saying it? Why are are they, what do they know? Because maybe that's a positive sign for what they know about him or not. I don't know. But it's a very interesting thing that people are saying. What I don't usually hear out in the world where we haven't studied midlife crisis, that are saying, oh yeah, he'll be back to you. Because usually people are like, oh yeah, they're gone. That person doesn't love you anymore. And there's a negative connotation to everything. But it's very interesting that people are so reassuring to you. I think that's a blessing. So I don't want you to look at it as I am saying something negative. I think that's a really wonderful thing people are saying as a reassurance to you. But I wonder what it is. What is their insight that they're thinking with this? And why don't you think it would happen? And part of it is we have these biases. And right now we're so traumatized. And you look and see the changes in what he's doing and how horrible he is to you. Like, how could anybody do that? And be so vile, so cruel, so much hatred to somebody. And then, oh yeah, they'll come back and they'll be all loving and everything. But it's such a complete opposite. Or is it? And here's what I mean by that. What I mean, and this is something I felt well before MLC, is I always described hate and love like this on a clock. If you have that much energy to hate somebody and the person that you feel that horrible toward, if somebody betrays you, if somebody does something that's not very nice to you, let's say they're just teasing you. People that tease you in class, in school, but they're not really your friends and they're just acquaintances. And now let's say your friends join in. What hurts more? It hurts more when it's the people who are your friends, doesn't it? And so then you feel that way towards them. You don't hate those people who were joining in that didn't really know you. First, you may have, they're ignorant and they were just joining in and they were told false things about you. Maybe that's it. Or they're just idiots. I never, what do they know? But the people who knew you, who were close to you, who had your heart, who you'd been vulnerable with, they took advantage of that. That's why I feel hate, those kind of strong emotions, and love are that close. It's 11:59 and 12:01 on the clock. The opposite of love is indifference. It's not caring. That lack of empathy that we see, where people say, excuse me, I don't care what happens to anybody. You know, it doesn't matter to me. I just don't care. That's indifference. And they stop caring about you at all, caring about an outcome, what happens. It's like where you are no better off than anybody else, and they don't care about other people either. That's so. Now, when you say, how often, I don't have specific statistics. And I am doing this because I want to change the odds. I want to train you to be standers. And I want to help you move forward. And if divorce is what's necessary or what happens, I want you to help you accept those things as well. There are situations where I don't think that we should reconcile. And those are situations when you have somebody who is one of the cluster Bs in the personality disorders. That would be narcissistic personality disorder. You hear a lot about narcissism in the group, that MLCers are like narcissists. And yeah, but when I say I don't think that these ones should reconcile, I mean people who would be diagnosable, and that means before MLC and after MLC. MLC, you could probably trick somebody to the diagnostician into diagnosing. Oh yeah, they definitely have it all, and the spouse is like probably not really saying what was true beforehand. They probably did exhibit these things, and people just didn't notice. You could trick a diagnostician, I bet. I could be wrong. I'm not one, because they can be so high on the narcissism scale. But we're really looking at somebody who has had those since young adulthood or early adulthood. And it is an arc. It's not changing, or it's getting worse. It's not getting better. So we have borderline personality disorder, histrionic personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, and the antisocial. Okay, there's those. If there is abuse, and specifically physical abuse, because mental abuse, that's a bad one, but it's more vague, and we don't recognize it. So we have to learn to recognize what we're going through. We have to learn, is that mental abuse part of a personality disorder from them? We have to look at other things and recognize it. And we're probably all going to look back and go, oh, this was abusive, at least during the crisis. So we're going to look beyond that as well. But especially physical abuse. If you've had a violent marriage, please run. Okay. And the other one is active. Notice I'm saying active addictions. Somebody who is not acknowledging that they need help and they are an addict. You can't help them. They have to help themselves. Okay. So those are the points where, and that doesn't mean you're not standing and not getting, you can stand for your marriage, or you can say, I'm not going to divorce because I have a covenant marriage, and still not, and choose not to reconcile. If that's where you choose, you can have a separate life. But what we're looking at, how often do they return? I want to change that for you. It's not as high as we want it to be. And most of you out there, I am sorry, we're not going to get to reconciliation. Many of you out there are going to get to choosing to move forward and away. In other words, from the reconciliation. Many of you are going to go through the standing process. Standing is a grace period, standing for your healing. And you're going to come through and say, okay, I don't want him. I don't want him back. I don't want her back anymore now. I don't want her forward anymore. I prefer to say forward because we're not going to move backwards anyway, right? But how often do I see them? I do see people coming back or wanting to. Here's the other thing, though, that we see is we see after many years, and many could be 7. Remember what I've said. Midlife crisis lasts 3 to upwards of 7 years. And I say that because there's this 3 to 7 range, but there's an upwards. I don't like to call them uncommon outliers, because they're not uncommon. It's just maybe they get stuck. Maybe those are the narcissists who just don't change and we didn't recognize it before. Maybe they're the addict who wasn't an active addict and they fell back into it. Or they weren't an addict before, but they became one. They had a full-on psychotic break. And they just went down the rabbit hole and they're not out. It became much more than what we see as a midlife crisis. It took hold of them and they went and they got caught in that dark place. Maybe. Okay. So 3 to upwards of 7 years. But we see some even vanishers, off-and-ons, and those are the ones that don't contact you much. Vanishers, they don't contact you. Off-and-ons, rarely. We do see them suddenly, and oftentimes it might be suddenly, out of the blue. You hear from them. You get an apology. Now, maybe you don't get anything else but an apology, so there's not an offer for any form of, it's barely a reconnection, because they're not reconnecting to you. They're just, maybe they're going through their 12 steps and making amends. It's something. It is something, okay? But we also see them then reconnecting, and then they get scared again. That doesn't mean they get as scared and hide away forever, but it is a slow process. So we want to take that slowly. And does that mean that reconnecting do they even have an intention of reconciliation or a dream of it? Many do have a dream and a fantasy. And some of them don't say anything because, well, no, after what I did, that they would never. And some of them do. In my case, he was a clinging boomerang, so I didn't have to wait for some random thing. He was always there. But I also had the idea of standing put right in front of him. And he didn't mock it. Some of them mock it, so I don't necessarily advise that as a general rule. You have to know your situation. But I had that out there, so he always knew that it's not a fantasy. You want to come home to me. You discuss it with me. That is an open thing to discuss. Because I'm there, I'm here for you. Because I am a stander, and I do want us to reconnect, and I want us to rebuild our relationship. Now, we have to rebuild it on a stable and with emotional regulation, with respect. All of those things have to happen. And healing and acknowledgement of what happened, all of those. But he knew. But many of them like, oh, I could never do that because nobody would take me back. And so there's that. How long after? Okay, remember that 3 to upwards of 7 years. That's where you're looking at your midlife crisis range right there. But if you have a clinging boomerang, you could see them trying that after 2 weeks, 2 months. Clinging boomerangs try to come home, but it is premature. And even those ones that random one who called you out of the blue after 5, 7 years, 10 years, it could be premature for them too. Or it's only premature if you go, yeah, and then you both start dating immediately, and 3 months later you jump back into, maybe not marriage if you had finalized a divorce, but living together. Oh, it didn't work through some of the things about, maybe you both felt healed on personal levels, but this is a new relationship also, and you've changed. And yet you know this person from having been with them for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35 years. You knew what they were like and all of their quirks. And those are different. And they're wary. Everybody's wary of each other. How vulnerable can I be? There's all sorts of new things you have to go through. You have to figure it out. And you have to take it slowly. Just like, and not everybody has my philosophy on taking it slowly when you start a relationship, but in my view, just like when you start a relationship, at least when you started in your 20s and even 30s, you go slowly because limerence is so active. Is there going to be something afterwards? I don't want people jumping into a marriage after just 6 months or 9 months of being together. My view is you date for a while. You have this engagement for a while. You talk about your goals together so that you understand that they're aligned as well. And after a few years, the marriage comes. And that includes the planning of this wedding and, or whatever happens with that. And that can include cohabitation. It can include that. And it can include that as a part of learning to be together. And it can include marriage or couples therapy so that you're learning what you need to be and do together. Especially after what we've all been through, that might be a really great thing for relationships after this. MLCers change. I know I'm talking a lot on this one. MLCers change. I want you to know that what your husband is doing, this different person he's showing, how he's changed a lot. He's totally different since he met her. And he doesn't seem to care about you or your son. And I'm sorry. Especially, I'm sorry for you, but I'm especially sorry that he's done that to your son. And I want to still normalize it for you. They don't all do that to the kids, but they do. Many, that is still a big portion. Many of them do that. They abandon. Some of them, I'm only abandoning you, not them. Some of them, they don't say that. They might not say, might not say, I am abandoning them. They just stop. They don't contact them. Especially if the kids are like, you're doing what's wrong too. If anybody who tells them what they're doing is wrong, it seems against them, is out. And they want this life over here. And the alienator is pulling them and telling them how wonderful they are and how everybody is against them over here and how they are going to rescue them from that. And we could just live our fantasy life. I know I have frozen several times because I keep looking down at my screen. So I'm sorry it's happening. I don't know why, but I'm going to keep going. So I want you to know MLCers do come back. They can come back. What you need to do, and this is the topic that I said I would really like to address. It'll go on what not to do. That isn't a question. If I get to it on Monday, if I don't today, is you need to work on you. You focus on you. You heal you. You be healthy. You get healthy. You take back your power. And it does not mean that you were a disempowered, submissive Stepford wife or any of that. Some people, especially women, but feel we lost ourselves in our marriage, that sort of thing. But not all of us. But even then, sometimes just the bomb drop, just in those 3 weeks, it does a number on us. And you spend 3 weeks like a puddle on the floor. Just that 3 weeks. You still have to take back your power from those 3 weeks. You take back your power. You take back your choice. Because that was one of my things that really got me was I was not given a choice in it. I'm leaving you and I'm going to divorce you and you get no say in this whatsoever. I mean, you get to go to say and have a say in asset splitting, but whether we get to stay married, I'm not even going to discuss it with you. I'm just out. So I'm not giving you the opportunity to fix us, to help us. I mean, and he did give me the opportunity, but he didn't say it was. The opportunity that you get, how you get the opportunity to fix the two of you, is by being a really healthy person, a detached, emotionally regulated person, and a gracious person. Gracious. My favorite concept is grace. So anything that comes grace, gratitude, gracious, any root word from grace, that's my thing. And you are going to live and be grace. Compassion for him, empathy for him, and boundaries. None of those, grace, gracious, compassion, empathy, none of those mean doormat. And it's hard because we are on this tightrope and sometimes we do fall off and make mistakes. It's like, oops, that was a little doormatish. Oops, shouldn't have done that. It's okay. You get back on. You learn to set boundaries. It is a process. And maybe you set the boundary because you communicated it. Here's what it is. And you didn't hold it. Or you held it. No, you can't do that. You can't come in this door, but they break in anyway. They do something. And then you don't set consequence. Consequences are really hard because you might be able to figure out this is the boundary, and I know that's not a right thing to do, but I don't know what consequence to set. Consequence comes up with the creativity. You know something, you know what's wrong. Infidelity is wrong in a marriage. But the consequences for it are so many. There's many different ones. I mean, kick them to the curb isn't always the immediate consequence. So coming up with a consequence for different actions, and you have to figure out what's going to work with each different individual. That's where the creativity comes in, and that's the hard part. And then setting them. And when you set a boundary, your emails here, doesn't mean they're going to follow it. It's up to you on your end to say they're being rude to you on the phone. Now, they're going to be rude to you on the phone. It's up to you to say, you know what, you're speaking to me inappropriately, and that's not something I'm going to tolerate. Goodbye. You can either change how you're speaking right now, and if you don't, I'm going to hang up. And then you don't have to give another warning. Click. It's like, okay, you haven't changed. Click. That's it. And they call back. You can give them, say, hi, have you changed your mind? Are you going to be appropriate? And sometimes they will. For that moment. I mean, they'll do it again next week or tomorrow or in an hour, depending on their cycle. Okay. So that's a really long lesson because I can tell that you're new and I wanted to go over a lot. Okay. So let's go on to number 2. And if you have any more questions, or anybody, for all of you, let me know on that. Okay. Okay. This next one, I did email her and ask some questions, but I haven't received a response because just it was confusing. But I'm going to read it and we'll get through it. Okay. So we have Val. Val is she has a bomb drop. Oh, and the bomb drop was one of the questions I had because the bomb drop says June 29th, but it also says 1966. And that could be a year of birth, was my thought. It says date of marriage is 2012. She said she has a clinging boomerang and she's not familiar with energy levels. She says, my husband and I are separated and he sees many women. There's one in particular, she says he hired and pays everything for her 42 years age difference. Now, I wasn't sure if he hired means that she's an employee of his or it's if she's a sex worker. And I have to admit, until this moment, I had constantly thought sex worker. And I just realized it doesn't say anything about that. She could just be, he hired her as an employee. But as I was reading it for the last few days, I just thought that he was going to sex workers. So I don't know. She doesn't say that, I will admit. It says bomb drop was 2 years ago. Okay, so 2 years ago now we have, even though it says 1966, so that gives us a little bit of frame. So it is. So I would put 2023, June 29th then. Okay. He doesn't want a divorce, but she says, stay together, not changing. And then this says, will monies, etc. And I don't know exactly what that means. The way she spells it is odd. But not changing the finances, how they're together. I'm not sure. We're supposed to sign a post-nup to make sure that I'm taken care of. And we already have a prenup. So the assumptions, and I said this to her in the email, that I'm going to make based on this is that they probably had a later in life marriage, especially since she did put 1966. So I was assuming age-wise, and that the date of marriage is 2012. So given that, if that's the age, given she could have been married so much earlier. And so they had a prenup, which isn't as common. Not that prenups, there's anything wrong with it, but it is more common, especially if you have children and you want to protect them, not from anything negative about a person, but just when inheritances come, maybe the things are supposed to go to the kids, that sort of thing. But now they're supposed to sign a post-nup. So some assumptions I was putting into it. She says then, acts like best friends. So I'm assuming he acts like we're best friends. Then she says he has hidden credit cards. I know I have told him as long as my bills are paid, deal with your own demons. I'm very religious and I put it all on the altar. I'm standing. So the other question I said is there's not really a question here. So I get a lot where there's not a question. I can surmise it basically and give the information. But I wasn't so much sure here. But okay. So those are the things though I am wondering is, well, what is your agenda then? And what are you going to do? to help this come. If you're a covenant-keeping stander, because that's the religious and I am standing, you put it all on the altar. And, what are you doing? What kind of growth are you choosing to do for yourself in the meantime? What kind of life are you giving yourself and you choosing for yourself in the meantime? And what kind of boundaries are you setting? Because he acts like your best friends. Are you allowing that also? Are you going out, hanging out, having fun with him while you're separated and he's hanging out with many women? And so that's the other thing. And how do you feel about that? How is it going to change the situation? So these are all questions for you to come back with an answer for yourself. It doesn't mean you have to answer to me. I want you thinking about these things. How are they going to help in your thing? You're not saying that you're acting like best friends. I'm asking you, are you or not? How do you feel about him acting like your best friend? I can guess. And my guess is how we all feel about that. Like, what in the world is he doing? But I'm just wanting to make sure. And that's why I'm saying that. But as long as my bills are paid, deal with your own demons. I think that's where a lot of people out there are going, what? What is that? People are thinking, it sounds like she doesn't really care, or does it? Because we don't know fully. Are you giving him an allowance to do it, a permission structure, or not? And that's what we know. It's like I get is, hey, I don't approve of what you're doing. Don't do it around me. So sow those wild oats, and just don't let the bills go to. Don't let the house go into foreclosure. Okay, just make sure everything's paid for, dude. But stay away from me. That's kind of what and I don't know if that's what I'm getting from you. I'm wondering if that's it, because I can see me saying that to Chuck 20 years ago. Is like, if you're gonna do this, I hate it. It's disgusting. But and Chuck on ours wasn't bad. He didn't go MLC financially. He stayed frugal and faithful or responsible to the bills as much as we both could. So you're saying he has hidden credit cards, though? That's not being responsible. So you need to see where the boundaries are, what needs to be not hidden, what needs to come out. And then you separate what and say, okay, you're going to live this lifestyle. And you can call me when. Here's what I did with Chuck. It was, when you choose to be an appropriate spouse, you may contact me. I'm not divorcing you. And I did change that eventually. I wasn't ready myself to do it yet. So it was just lip service at that point. It was more, I'm going to see if he takes my my bluff. But I personally knew this has got to stop being a bluff. I'm just not ready for it to. But this is how we start. And it was, Chuck, I could change my mind. That's how I started it. I didn't say I was changing it yet because I wasn't ready. I could change my mind about this divorce thing. I said, I don't believe in it. I said, I'm not going to do it, but I could change my mind. I could change my mind. And, I'm not promising we're going to be married forever, given how you're behaving. And that did scare him. And that was the last out and then he came back. That started to scare him. Wait, you said this. It started to scare him. The bluff worked. And that was it. If you're not going to be an appropriate spouse, you don't get to contact me anymore. We can be married on paper and emotionally divorced. There is an emotional divorce. And that's what you are right now. You're emotionally divorced. And so think about what that is and how you can communicate this emotional divorce and what that means to him. Is it leverage for him? If he's a clingy boomer, like you say, yeah, that was leverage. That was big leverage for Chuck. Okay. So those are the things that I want you to think about. And if you want me to answer any more or clarify, and I can help more, let me know, and we can go over some more again. Okay. Because we've got all the other videos I do that aren't live, and then we've got 2 more lives coming up also. I've got space. So, okay, we're going to go on to number 3. Number 3 is Deb. sorry, no, wait, we're going to go on to, no, number 4. Number 3 is anonymous. Female left behind and forward moving spouse with a bomb drop of February 5th, 2022, and a date of marriage of 1998. She has an off and on and a high energy replayer. She says, after exposure of the affair, and the ML seer, and this is one of the new ones, okay. The ML seer daughter confronted him, and he said it was not serious. There was no commitment and no marriage. That happened on March 30th. So bomb drop was 2022, but it sounds like March 30th she's talking about this year. So, okay. That happened on March 30th. Affair is going on maybe from January 2025. Okay. Recently, the alienator has been posting on her Facebook and intensely on the MSA's birthday, and also about not trusting men, etc., and perhaps directed at her own ex-partner. Okay. She has 5 children. One of those children posted on her mother's Facebook, so on the alienator's Facebook page, that what she was doing was awful to have left the family. Okay. And you say it in a moment here. I'm going to say it before we get there. Okay. ML seers often match up with ML seers. So oftentimes the alienators can be an ML seer. And your ML seer is an alienator for another ML seer. Okay? And that is what it looks like, because you have a left behind child who is angry at their spouse or at their parent, just like your kids. And they're outing that more and saying, hey, what you're doing is wrong and blah, blah, blah. Sometimes we're afraid of when our kids do that, and sometimes we're like, yes, they noticed, they feel that, oh, validated, you feel valid. Oh, yes, it's all of those. And yet you're also like, and then, but I want them to have a relationship with that parent. I don't want them hating that parent. And so you're also, part of you is dying inside for the sadness of that. And part of you is that the validation feels good as well. So do you think that cracks are surfacing in this relationship? Why would the alienator post openly on Facebook about her own relationship? If the affair, wouldn't she keep it quiet and go on her own way? The poor child is so hurt. Yeah. Yes. What would the MLCer feel with all of this drama? It also appears like the alienator is in her own MLC. The MLCer and the alienator are 21 years apart. MLCer is 57 and the alienator is 36. So 36, women do tend to, actually the bomb drop, where I cite as the average age of bomb drop for men and women is actually almost the same within a few months of each other, is around 46. But other than that, there's a scatter of, I notice women can be a little bit younger than men. But still 36 is a little young, but I see them. Okay. For a female alienator, MLC. So you're asking some questions about the alienator. Why wouldn't she keep quiet about it? Why would she post about her, relationship, her previous one on Facebook? Why would she, and because it's hurting her child. Now, instead of labeling her as the alienator, put it in a different, let's switch frames and say, this person is an MLCer. And what do MLCers do? They do that. Some of them, stay quiet and keep everything hidden. But some of them, they post all of the drama. They are drama queens. And they put it out there. And they don't, I want to say a lack of empathy for the kids, but sometimes it's not even that. It's not meant to be that. It's not deliberate. It's not on the radar. How the children feel isn't on the radar. They don't get it. They lack the ability to understand when they are laser focused. Some of it is limerence. Laser focus, as you hear. And so it cuts off your empathy. And so what the pieces of the empathy then that it's cutting off? empathy has the lower levels, and people who are narcissistic, they have this levels. In fact, they're graded on. You can read the room. In other words, I can come in and I can sense that people are angry, happy, sad, whatever. And I know how to deal with that in the sense of I know if I'm a salesman, I know what to do to get somebody to become angry or to buy. I know how to rile up a room. They know how to manipulate the emotions and read the emotions. What they don't have is the higher levels of empathy. I don't care. I don't have compassion. Caring in the emotive sense, not in the I give care by like a nurse gives active things that are care. You could be a nurse that doesn't care and gives active care. I hope nurses usually do care in the compassion way. But you could be so detached that you're dissociated. And this is where we are with the narcissist is they don't have the ability. They haven't not learned it. And so it's not in here. It is not physiologically inside here. The ability to understand compassion, to be compassionate. They don't know how. And sometimes, for those who do get it and who have had it, certain things will block it. Depression can block it. There are probably some medications that could just block it. Limerence blocks it, but they have a tunnel vision and they are tunneled to often that limerent object. So they might have compassion, empathy for the limerent object, but things that are outside of the tunnel vision might not. There might be some things that could click in for a few moments, like tragedies out there that happen, big national things but things that happen to you, that's just static, and they don't get it. Why would they care? Chuck told me, I must be different than everybody. And this is right before his last time coming home and everything. I must be different than everybody because I just don't get why they care. And it was about his siblings really caring that he was still cheating and wanting him to stop and wanting him to be home. And I don't think they were being judgmental and horrible. They were very loving. But he didn't get, why would they even care? And they weren't like, oh, we have to save your soul. It wasn't like that. But why do they care? I wouldn't care about what other people are doing with their lives. That's private lives. That really bothers me sometimes when you even see celebrities or you give a pass for celebrities and kings. And it's just their private lives. They can do whatever they want in their private lives, but their private lives are hurting people. That's where we have the problem with it. We have the problem with it because it's hurting people. And it's leaving destruction and trauma. And if that's causing pain, toxic pain, trauma to others, that's where the problem is. And children, especially, they don't get to choose. Well, hey, she was choosing to be hurt by that. Maybe at 40 you have an argument but my body still reacts like this, trauma. You're suddenly shocked. But especially a child, they need a stable parent. And the alienator, who is in midlife crisis herself, doesn't get that right now. She may have been somebody who got it before. She may not have been. 36, 5 kids. You didn't say that like she has multiple baby daddies. Is that what you said? But she has an ex, and so maybe she was consistent in a consistent relationship and has 5 children. Great, good for her. But it still happens that you go through a midlife crisis. And your parenting goes down. And your children become very disappointed in you. And they are. And she's not going to get it. And then they will project and claim, well, it's parental alienation. They're just talking bad about me. But what she's doing is she's trying to justify her own behaviors. Because then we don't have to think we're bad. And if she's limerent for your husband, if there's limerence going on, she is targeted to him. and all other empathy's gone. It's just focused on that, and it's an addiction. She needs that fix. There is a high that comes with it. The world becomes brighter. They say that flavors, tastes, senses, colors, more vibrant with limerence. But you probably need to be with your limerent object. Not like you have limerence, but your object is way over there and you don't ever get to see him. You need to be with him. That's where it's really at. You need a fix. Okay? And there is going to be drama. When limerence can have drama anyway, when it's legitimate relationship. But now you have an illegitimate relationship where 2 marriages are being destroyed. Why wouldn't there be drama? 2 marriages with children are being destroyed. Why wouldn't there be drama? So what does your MLCR feel about all this drama? He's creating it on his end too. Sometimes they don't like it, but he has his part in it. And maybe he's trying to rescue her from the drama. I have to, all these people are being so horrible. Maybe they're both doing that to each other. Oh, we don't want the drama. We're going to run away together to get away from all these horrible, judgmental people. All of those things. Her behavior can line up with her being an MLC, or it could line up with her being really immature outside of MLC. Also, it could. Okay, we're going to go on to number 4. And number 4, we have an anonymous female left behind and forward-moving spouse with a bomb drop of February 13th, 2022, a date of marriage of 2002. She has a clinging boomerang who is a high-energy replayer. She says he has left the alienator and moved into his own apartment. This is nice. He said he sees her for who she is, and now she isn't good for him. He's apologized repeatedly for hurting me and is rebuilding relationships with others. That's nice. It's really nice. Okay. Now, while we say this, we're going to say, go back and look at this bomb drop, because he's left the alienator. He sees, or we don't know how it's broken up yet, but he sees her for who she is. And she sees that she isn't good. He's apologized repeatedly for hurting me, not just to you. Okay, and he's rebuilding other relationships. Okay, 3 years since bomb drop at February. We're approaching 3.5. It'll be 3.5 in August. Okay, that's early good for this, but okay, yeah, not premature. Then he said that he needs to go to therapy. Nice, to figure out his anger issues. Now he said, has he done it? Okay, and figure out all the pain he has been carrying for a while. So he didn't just say he needs to go to therapy, but he labeled his anger issues. So he labeled anger, he labeled pain, and he said he is a good person. Yeah. And he just needs to find himself. Okay. Those are more vague, and they're not inaccurate. If he'd only say, I just need to find myself, but he hadn't labeled. I wouldn't say anything bad, because he has the other stuff, but he actually labeled he has anger issues. Nice. Okay. I know we aren't supposed to stage watch. I know, but we do, don't we? Me too. But could this be the start of depression, or just a cycle? Yes to both of those. First, yes to both of those. And here's the thing. You can have the start of depression become just a cycle. In other words, they could go back to the alienator and it didn't take, but it really was going to be the start of liminality. It would have worked had these other conditions been there, or this condition, the alienator, not come back in, or some other alienator not come in, something, or let's say there was another bomb, another trauma, another trigger thing that could push them forward, or it could push them back into the hidey hole of replay, of escape and avoid. Either way. So, but yes, to what you're asking though is yes, this could certainly be the start of a truer liminality. And it's still going to go slowly. And so you are at we have thought, word, and deed. You're at the word. He is speaking. He has said he needs therapy. And I'm not saying that with like skeptics. No, I'm saying now let's see when he does the therapy. I mean, even I think about these things. I'm like, well, we really need to do this. We really need to do this. I need to, and then it takes me forever to make the phone call and set it up. Really, it does. And I feel so guilty for dropping that ball, And so he may have the full intention of doing all that. Do not offer to do it for him. Okay, don't take over some of these things. If there's something he needs help with and it seems legitimate, but do not do something where like, oh, you know what? I'll help you with it. I'll get it all set up for you. Don't. I'll find somebody for you. Don't. He has to do this on his own. You handling this would be like you killing the butterfly because you helped it escape the cocoon. Okay. It has to stretch and build its muscles. That's how it becomes strong enough to fly. And this is part of his growth. He has to handle his own affairs. No pun intended. He has to handle his own recovery. Okay. But yes. So I hope that it's going to take that. And you can be there for him. Okay. You just can't do there for him. Okay. So let's go on to our last one. Okay. We have an anonymous male left behind and forward moving spouse with a bomb drop again. And I hadn't even read it. I only read the question. So it says 1981. I don't think the bomb drop is 81. But it says November 29th. And it might say a bomb drop. Sometimes they say how many years. So, but I'm going to assume that the bomb drop was more likely 2024. So again, a November of 24 probably. A date of marriage of 2002, which definitely means there wasn't a bomb drop 21 years before that. He says she's a boomerang and a high energy replayer. He says, my wife moved out on February 28th, leaving our two daughters, who are 16 and 10, with me full-time in the family home. I'm going to say something really, I don't want it to be awful, but I'm really glad that she left them with you. A lot of female MLCers do, but a lot of them don't either. There are a lot of them that, because women are supposed to be the child caregivers and in the social structure that we have, and I'm glad that it's becoming okay to leave them with dad, at least instead of taking them to her irresponsibility or trying to kick you out. Or maybe she did try to kick you out, but you're like, no. Okay. I'm sad that she did it, but I'm glad that it's okay to leave them with you and that she sees that. There's a long distance emotional affair. Okay. She lives 5 minutes away now. And I'm assuming she lives 5 minutes away from you, not the emotional affair, since it's long distance. Okay. She had ideas of a fantasy that the girls would spend as much time with her at her place as they do in the family home. Yeah. They definitely do not do that and have hardly any interest in being with her at all after the hurt she's caused. She's been adamant that she's leaving me, but not the kids. I said we were getting the one that said that. And not abandoning the children. Even though she has, and they feel the pain of it. And here's how you know if you're abandoning your children. You ask them. You don't say, I'm not abandoning my children. You go ask them how they feel about that. Do they feel that you are abandoning, what you're doing is abandoning them? That's how you know. And it's not always going to be cut and dry. There's nuance. But you ask them. Because, and you're going to be confused by that. You as the MLCer is what I'm saying. But people divorce all the time. And they have joint custody and all that. Why isn't it working out for us? Why couldn't it work? Why isn't it? Well, probably because of how you're doing it. And in some of those situations, it took a few years to get to that point where it is working out. And it does feel like that. And those two couples, the couples may have joined or, 50-50. And they may co-parent well and get along. But then there are some that don't. And they just have 50-50 custody because the court tells them to, or because they know what's best for the children and they just do it. My cousin's wife, years ago, right when my kids were babies, she had a scorched earth MLC, and he got custody, official custody, not like where he has the custodial custody, but it's officially joint. No, he got custody. She doesn't have it. In other words, she can't take him to the doctor. Officially, he'd have to be notified. But they spent 50-50. They're getting older now, so one of them just aged out, I think. And he says he does that because they need to be with her too, and it's fair. Sometimes it's not fair, but they don't work together on it at all. But because he said they need to be with their mom, and that's fair, and they need to have a relationship with her. So you can see that, but just because you see this from a distance, you don't know necessarily. She doesn't. Your MSO doesn't know the dynamics of that. Doesn't mean it's working. Doesn't mean it's working at all. And that situation isn't always good for the girls. In my cousin's situation. So even though and they feel the pain of it. I'm standing and wondering if you have any suggestions for how to deal with this situation, as she's pushing hard for divorce via mediation or on her own. And in the long run, the girls do need a relationship with their mom. So, yeah, that first thing, like my cousin Pad, he just has them go to their moms. I don't necessarily, in his situation, and so I don't know what yours would be, feel that 50-50 was the greatest, because due to that doctor thing, they got scarlet fever because she didn't take him to the doctor because she didn't want him to know. And one of them got scarlet fever years ago. She could have taken him to the doctor ages before, and but she didn't. So there were some issues. So I felt that she didn't always do what's in their best interest. So if you have a spouse who isn't always going to do that, do it. You are Papa Bear. But they need a relationship with her. Especially for your 16-year-old, she is old enough to choose that relationship. She is old enough to choose whether that is, I don't go stay there. Mom and I can have lunch on these days. Or, mom can do this for me, that sort of thing. Or, I would encourage it, but not force it. She doesn't have to have a relationship with her. Because you could eventually meet a wall of resistance if you force. Encourage versus force. You have to say, it's not I really want, but it's really important that I understand mom's burning this bridge, but it would be really great if we can put some fire on it. And I don't think she has the ability right now to put the fire out. But if we could get some buckets and just have some compassion. Right now, she's really, we're trying not to make excuses. She's crazy. Okay. And what I mean, she's dysregulated. She's going through stuff and it's not right. And we don't want to give her a pass, but we do want to understand psychologically. And how to balance. We're not giving her a pass, and yet understanding is really hard. Because there is still going to be those people who say, well, by doing that, you are giving her a pass. I just want to understand psychologically. Then I can explain it. Then I can take it to our daughter or to whoever in a way that she can understand for her age and for her level of understanding. And she can, what do I do with this? Because I want her, if you don't have a relationship with her now, but you might, maybe when you're 20 or 25, or if she's in a midlife crisis, she comes through this. And in 10 years, she's going to be different. And she's going to want to make amends. And I don't really want that bridge to be so burnt because you've decided that no, because what you did then, you can never repair because it's different now. You can't build a new bridge. And so that's why it's really good. You keep some lines open. But it's up to her. Now your 10-year-old, that's different. You need to give her a 10-year-old's view of that instead. She needs to be more encouraged. Talk to, your mediators and your lawyers about the custody, what needs to happen with that. If it is traumatizing, she needs to first especially while you are still married. If you are able to get on the custody agreement that there are no men over there, or she doesn't introduce them to other men, that sort of thing. Or she doesn't until she has the divorce is finalized, and then plus she has to have been with that person dating her for so long or something. You might not be able to control it after that. But there some people have had certain structures that are involved in that where the kids don't have to be introduced for a certain level of time. Okay. For their safety. And that will help your daughter, and she knows that you're there fighting for her. Okay. And while you're doing this, you're not alienating them. You're not trying, and your wife might accuse you of that, and you don't defend yourself. You look sad. You say, well, I'm sorry that you're feeling that way, but my job right now, I don't want this divorce, but my primary job is to protect our daughters. And you can say our daughters, or you use their names. My primary job is to protect Peyton and Serenity and the boys and me. My primary job is to protect Peyton and Serenity. No matter what Chuck's doing, my primary job is to protect the girls over Chuck right now and anytime. That's what you are. My primary job is to protect them. And one of the primary things I believe in protecting them is that they have a relationship with both of us that is healthy, an emotionally stable relationship. And so I feel that it is my job, and this is you saying this, to encourage that relationship then with you. So I'm not going to alienate them against you, because that would not be in their best interest. It wouldn't be in your best interest. It wouldn't be in my best interest. It wouldn't be in our best interest. It's not in the best interest of our family. But at the most important kernel is that it's not in theirs. And so I'm sorry you feel that that's what I'm doing. But what it really is what you're confusing is me protecting them. Because we have different ideas of what is best for them. So, and when I look at them, they feel that they've been abandoned by you. They feel that they've been betrayed by you. They have certainly been hurt by you, by your actions. And they are traumatized. So I hope that they're in counseling. Okay. I hope that they're getting some help. So those are the thoughts I'm thinking. Because what do? I think I talked about this with the first one, because you're as new as she is you focus on yourself and you heal. The way you get to reconciliation, and there are no guarantees, but the way you get there is the same way you get to a surviving and thriving life after divorce, life after marriage to someone. You heal. You take back your power. And you choose joy in life. You detach. Detaching, that's the most important healing tool in your healing toolbox. But it's up to you. You get to choose joy. It is choice. So healing, you are becoming an attractive force. If you say, no, I'm not going to heal, I will do that when that happens, when they get back. Why would anybody come back to somebody who isn't healed? I mean, seriously? That's the problem that we see. Is you can stay stuck because you're having a problem getting there. Or you can stay stuck because you're choosing to. I'm not saying you are. But there are those out there who are like, well, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to detach. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do these things until my spouse gets back. That will be the reason for doing it is because they're here. Then they don't have a reason to come back. Okay? So how to deal with the situation. You heal. And should you go through, how do you do the divorce? Mediation or on your own? Go to a mediator. Don't do something on your own, because you're not, if you are a lawyer, don't get a fool for a client. Okay. So go to a mediator. If you need to get your own lawyer, do that. It may get to divorce. Okay. And there is standing after divorce, and there's reconciliation and remarriage to your spouse, the original spouse, after divorce. Okay. It happens. It can happen. And there's no one to say it can't. She might say, no, that'll never happen. But you know what? We hear that all the time from MLCers. Those who reconcile, those who don't. Okay. That's just stuff like, yeah, okay. Yeah, you're in MLC mode, so I don't give that credibility. 10 years down the road, it'll never happen. I give credibility. Right now, no, I don't. Okay. She has to go through her crisis, and you've got to give her that space. Give her the compassion and the grace. Grace is give radical acceptance, compassion, and empathy, but with the boundaries. Okay. Okay. So we did not get to the topic I want to discuss, so I do want to get over it. I do want to do that as well. And I will go over on one of these days to get to that topic, if I need to, since I already went over today. But please keep sending your submissions, because I do love to have lots. And look at us, we did 5. So 4 to 5. I used to do 8, but I like to ramble. So I will see everybody next Monday. Send me your stuff, okay? Because if you don't, I'm just going to talk about that topic anyway. And I've got 1 so far, I think, unless a few have come in while I've been chatting. Okay? So Stand Up and Thrive is open now. It is open until next Thursday evening. And I have to go grab some lunch, because our Stand Up and Thrive meeting is in 50 minutes. So all my Stand Up and Thrivers, I will see you in a few minutes. And I will see the rest of you on Monday.